In this month's market update, we're discussing the sudden changes in oil and gas prices and the surprising impacts this might have on real estate.
We'll also be discussing February existing home sales.
We'll also discuss job numbers and talk about the upcoming Fed meeting later this month.
All that and more on this month's market update.
Welcome to this month's market update. If you like what you're hearing, please click like and subscribe to our podcast episodes and share them with others. Welcome, Ruben. It's great to be back with you.
Yeah, we just got done with FR, right? Back in Austin. It's good to be back. How's it going?
It's going really, really well. It's been surprising to learn what has happened in recent news and current events.
Yeah, so a lot of news. The biggest thing for us being the oil price shock resulting from the conflict that's broken out in Iran. So, we've seen oil prices increase quite a lot. I guess just to start with some background on what's actually happening is, the sort of global supply of oil because of what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz has basically been cut by like 20% so far. That'll keep compounding on itself the longest this goes on. Even if it were to stop tomorrow, it's going to take enough time to unwind that this is going to be an ongoing issue for at least several weeks, probably potentially several months, depending on the outcome. So
we're globally connected, even though that the majority of the oil and gas that the United States consumes is not directly correlated because we are a global economy. This has a major impact on the countries that are, part of the economy of the world.
Exactly, right? Like we have open markets. Oil is bought on an open global market. There's things that could happen. We could see, in the 70s, we actually did get things like price controls put on oil, but that had a lot of ripple effects like empty gas stations and, miles long lines for gas that happened then. So I assume they're going to try to avoid that now. We'll see how everything shakes out. But the way it impacts us is mostly the fact that oil's in almost everything, right? In a lot of ways, anything plastic, synthetic fabrics, the shipping to get things from point A to point B. It just shows up in a lot of places. And when you look at inflation statistics, even if you strip the actual price of oil and gas out of the statistics, we talk about sometimes the core inflation number, which, removes the price of both food and energy like gas, oil, things like that out of it. It's still positively correlated to some extent with the price of oil, especially when you have these big shocks. The size of those movements is smaller now than it was in the 70s, but it's still enough to create it's just a broad inflationary effect when we see these oil price spikes. What does that mean for real estate, right? Mortgage rates, right? When we talk about inflation, just going back to a lot of the conversations we have is what do we care about? We care about jobs, we care about inflation because that's what impacts mortgage rates when the Fed makes their decisions and things like that, right? This is on the inflation side of that conversation, and it creates more inflation, which means basically either the Fed has to wait longer to lower rates or they have to even potentially increase rates in the future, which impacts people's expectations of what rates should be going forward. And that essentially just means upward pressure on mortgage rates. And we're already seeing that start to show up, right?
Let's break this down into a specific example so that if I am, just an average citizen, going to the grocery store and going about my whereabouts in the world, it could show up at the gas pump, right? Where else could it be showing up that has a direct impact on my bottom line?
I mean, in terms of like very direct impacts, so obviously your gas, if you live in the north right now and you buy heating oil to heat your house, if your electricity is created from natural gas, we talk a lot about crude oil, but another major export from that same region is natural gas. I think only like 20% of close to the world's natural gas comes from that region as well. Same thing as a global market. Those prices look like they're also going to be trending up.
So when those prices end up trending up is where we see the impact on the various supply chains that have a direct impact on someone who is purchasing any of these goods in the U.S.
Yeah, even if you're buying, tomatoes that come in plastic packaging, potentially that plastic now costs the company more to manufacture. If you're buying med supplies that use plastic tubing, it literally ripples through everything, right? Like we rely on oil and gas for so many things that we don't even think about daily being oil, right? We mostly just think of what we put in our gas tank, but it's in everything. It's what gets everything from point A to point B. And it's also like what keeps the lights running to some extent in some places, especially when you talk about natural gas.
So in other words, because of those prices begin to go up, The government now looks at the prices of goods going up that have an impact on U.S. citizens and have to start making potentially different decisions on what they're going to do because of inflation happening.
And we'll talk about like the Fed specifically in a little bit, but when you look at just longer term treasury rates, like we talk about the 10-year treasury rates, thing that's most correlated with the mortgage rate. That's a lot of that's driven by people's expectations about the future. So what do I expect the Fed to do in the next 5 years? What do I expect prices to do in the next 5 years? What do I expect jobs to do in the next 5 years? That kind of thinking impacts the pricing of those longer term treasuries. So when you see something like this that's considered broadly inflationary, people start to price that into longer term treasuries. We've already seen that start to push treasuries up and therefore push mortgage rates up. I think mortgage rates have moved up almost like a quarter of a point already. I think we're sitting around this. We sit today around 6.25. Mm-hmm. I guess you could call that like a more indirect effect, right, of this, or you're not actually buying the thing that the price is directly increasing on, but even with things like financial services, you start to see higher interest rates start to show up as we anticipate movements.
In other words, it sounds like if this is where the trend could be headed in light of economic uncertainty that has, very suddenly come into our orbits, then what we might want to do as real estate professionals is to clearly communicate why the global economy as it is now is creating that kind of uncertainty that can have an impact on the potential continual slight rise of interest rates. When we have buyers in front of us that are already motivated and that had not been able to find property over the last 90 days because of low inventory, this might be the perfect time this year for them to take advantage of the rates as we know them, as they are, while we're approaching the spring market and seasonality, which will have, a higher volume of homes that will be hitting the market coming up. The conversation right now to have with buyers that are already working with us is key.
Even before anything started happening with Iran, we were already projecting mortgage rates to really only drift down to just below 6% this year. What this has fundamentally done is decrease the probability that forecast was going to be too high for rates, right? The odds that we're going to dip down below 6% by more than expected by the end of this year are now much lower because we're going to see this, at least in this beginning part of the year, why this is ongoing, this upward drift in mortgage rates most likely that wasn't anticipated prior to this. Worst case scenario, this could last much longer. We don't really have any specific timelines on this. So if this pushes out months or something, you could see rates potentially drift up throughout the year. We could be in a higher rate scenario than most forecasts saw. We don't really know for sure what that looks like yet. There'll be more forecasting that's going to get done over the next few weeks as more information becomes available. But we could be in a market potentially where we see higher than expected rates by, quarter, half of a point going forward. But it could also resolve, rates could stabilize, and it could drift back down. There's just uncertainty, right? So as we're headed into the summer, I would say, yes, there's probably some advantage in moving now, and that buyers also are at their highest leverage point throughout the year, right? When you're negotiating early in the year before we get into the peak season, there's less competition. Your advantage in terms of like your leverage, depending on your market, is special too. But you also can guarantee you're going to get these lower rates that may not be there come June or July if things are still not resolved. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a toss-up. We're kind of injecting some uncertainty. I think it's also a good segue to kind of get into like what the real estate market's doing, right? So we need to talk about existing home sales, inventory, stuff like that. Numbers are a little bit slow, right?
They indeed are. In fact, we were just discussing before beginning the recording how relatively unchanged and frankly flat they are.
Yeah. So even before any of this stuff we just talked about happened, we're already noticing a little bit of a slightly concerning trend, which is that rates were down quite a bit from last year, right? Last year when we were going into the beginning of the year, we were sitting, I think, at like 6.7, moving towards 6.5% mortgage rates. We started this year at 6, like right at 6. And we've been kind of like bouncing around low 6s. And now with what's happening, it's starting to trend back up again. Both in January and February, we saw essentially flat to year-over-year declines in home sales. So in February specifically, we're down 1.4% from last year. Inventory is pretty much flat. It's up like 5% from last year. We're at 3.8 months of supply. We're still kind of like at the low points for inventory for the year, right? We're just going to, like in March, we'll probably start to see things lift off the bottom, which is normal seasonality. But we still haven't seen any like real upward push in new listings. If anything, new listings seem to actually be slowing down compared to what they were over the last couple of years on a year-over-year basis. And prices as well were completely flat, 0.3% year over year. So we're seeing like an initial sluggishness that's not entirely atypical for the time of the year, but given the, better affordability, the lower interest rates that we're seeing, we kind of expect to see a little bit more of a bump. So it's something we're going to have to keep an eye on, because if we continue on this trend, it's going to mean that like a lot of forecasting was a little bit too optimistic. And then particularly with what's happening now, it's already going to probably push some downward revisions as rates are trending up. So something to keep our eye on. But with this uncertainty, if you're talking to buyers, right, and they have found things they're interested in, there's reason to move now, right?
Absolutely. And this is why, especially the next 30 days might be telling, because as we would expect, what be happening in the spring market with more properties coming on the market, it is the seasonality across most parts of the country. If a buyer has been thinking about a certain area of town or has already, previewed homes that might match their criteria, it is in fact a great time to make the decision now before they might end up having to factor in things like higher interest rates or economic uncertainty that might prevent them from being able to make the move this year.
That's the trade-off right now, right? For a buyer, you can lock your rates in, have your kind of like more certainty, but you're going to have like potentially less choices. If you wait to the summer, more uncertainty around what rates are going to do. But you will, it's just factual, there'll be more homes to choose from in the summertime, right? Mm-hmm. At least in 99% of markets, normal seasonality is going to dictate there's going to be more inventory on the market, but also more competition.
Yeah. And to add to the complexity of the conversations, we have another Fed meeting coming up later this month.
Yeah. So, we were talking about just now economic uncertainty, what's driving that. And aside from the interest rate conversation, which is fairly new in terms of mortgages and things, jobs numbers, right? In February, we lost 92,000 jobs. January's report had been somewhat positive, and then we took a step back in February. We talked last month about jobs being kind of the sore spot in the economy right now in terms of job growth. Unemployment also ticked up a bit in February to 4.4%, which is still a very low number historically speaking, but we just keep seeing more and more layoffs happening at large companies. We see it in the news. That makes people uneasy. We know that hiring has slowed down substantially, and we've had these months where we're having these net job losses. We're seeing it show up and weigh on consumers. When we looked at, the University of Michigan surveys of consumers, we're seeing larger portions of people start to report that they expect unemployment to move up in the next 12 months and higher probabilities that they believe that they could lose their job in the next 12 months. That kind of thing starts to weigh on people's decision making, right? And we think that's one of the things that was weighing on the home sales figures earlier in the year. Getting back to that Fed conversation, that's their kind of tension right now. There's these relatively weak job numbers, and then they were looking at inflation that up until this point, their biggest concerns were, what are the effects of tariffs? Are they transitory? Are they building up? Are they going to continue to accelerate? Where does that is? Well, now we've just injected an oil supply shock, potentially the largest one in the history of the world, essentially, on top of that. So the Fed's got their work cut out for them when they meet this month. But the consensus is essentially that they're not going to move rates this month, that they'll stay pat, wait and see. That was already kind of the consensus going into this, that they wouldn't move to lower rates just yet. We're anticipating 2 rate cuts going into this year. Those predictions have now started vacillating between 2 and 1 with the new uncertainty that's been injected, and particularly the fact that what's happening is considered inflationary pressure.
It is also the international oil reserves that are beginning to get released. Is that a way to mitigate potential inflationary tails that the Fed is trying to mitigate as well?
Yeah, certainly. In the short term, particularly, the question there is how long does this go on, right? Because once you've released the oil reserves, they're released to some extent, right? They can meter out what they're releasing, but that's a fixed sum because they're not able to rebuild those reserves right now because of the shortage, right? So as that depletes, it goes out. And we saw that reaction in the markets. There was kind of, I think some people expected they announced that release and oil prices would go down. Quite the opposite actually happened today. So I think some of that was a kind of a knee-jerk, oh, we're already here. It's been 1 week, right? What does this look like 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now?
In effect, this might almost be a representation of what happens emotionally when we look at, the markets or oil and gas. There's a lot of emotional buying and selling off.
Yeah, no, those markets are rich with speculation, I would say, right? Even in normal times. So when you see these shocks injected, it just multiplies the amount of speculation that's going on. You see these rapid, wild swings in prices. And we're probably going to be in that world for a little while. So, all that to say, the Fed's probably not going to make any movements this next month. They'll meet again in April, and we'll see. Like, the more information we get, the more information we have on inflation. Because the last inflation report that came out was actually quite relatively good. Like, we were at 2.4% CPI, but when you dig into that, a lot of that was like gasoline prices, oil prices were actually going down when that report came out. So the base level report that comes out in a month, and then the month following that, it's probably going to look fundamentally different than the one we just saw.
Yeah. And that was based off because we had an oversupply in oil and gas, just a short 30 days ago. So it goes to show that, when something happens globally, the conversations that the Feds end up having changes at a nick of time based on what is happening around the world.
Yeah, they're going to consider, everything that's going on when they make that decision. As it stands, they were kind of already leaning in the direction that this is going to push them, and this is just going to really probably solidify their choice.
Perfect. So to summarize, the sudden changes in what is happening in the oil and gas industry globally and certainly nationally, plus the upcoming Fed meeting and what it is that they now get to weigh in, will provide a lot of conversation in the coming months in regards to where the U.S. economy might be headed.
Basically, what we're seeing in short is, what's happening in oil and gas is probably pushing up mortgage rates. Uncertainty around the job market is probably already weighing down housing some as we're transitioning this spring. So we'll have to see how that evolves. And yeah, the Fed will likely stand pat on rates over this next month.
Ruben, you are always greatly appreciated for making economics fun and for summarizing it for all of our real estate professionals to be able to have better conversations based on the impacts on what the numbers and the data means as it comes to real estate. Please remember to click like and subscribe to our podcast episodes and share them with other real estate professionals that could benefit from having stronger conversations around economics as well.
Until next time.